We've all seen South Korea conquer the world with K-pop and K-drama. But what if its next big global export isn't about entertainment, but about healing? Today, we're diving into something called K-healing, a movement that's blending ancient wisdom with some seriously futuristic science.
So here's the big idea driving this whole thing. Imagine taking these concepts that are thousands of years old, ideas about life energy, natural healing, and pulling them right into the 21st century. We're talking about putting them under the microscope, into the lab, and even onto a brain scan.
And our story starts in a place you might not expect, high up in Pokhara, Nepal. It all kicks off with a chance meeting that sounds, well, almost too incredible to be true. So you've got Professor Lee Young-kun, who's in Nepal doing research. He pops into a local Korean restaurant, but the owner isn't around. She agrees to meet him, but says it has to be in her car, which is kind of weird. But then he finds out why. She literally cannot walk.
It turns out she took a really nasty fall down some stairs at her house. Her leg was so badly injured she was in a cast and couldn't put any weight on it at all. Her doctors had basically told her, look, it's going to be weeks before you even start to heal properly.
So you can imagine her surprise when Professor Lee, this guy she's just met, offers to treat her leg right then and there. She's got a doctor's diagnosis, a cast, she's in a ton of pain, and her reaction was just total disbelief. I mean, the whole idea just seemed completely impossible.
But here's the crazy part. She agreed, and what happened next was just mind-blowing. After just one 30-minute session of something called Qi treatment, she was actually able to stand up, just using her crutches for a bit of balance. A couple more sessions, and she completely ditched the cast and the crutches. And by the last session, she was walking around like nothing had ever happened, totally defying what her doctors had said.
Now I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a miracle story, right? But this is where we go from a single, amazing anecdote to some pretty serious, hard data. Because Professor Lee's work isn't just about chance encounters. It's built on years and years of rigorous scientific research.
So, what exactly is this Qi? Well, according to a research paper Professor Lee published back in 2008, it's defined as a kind of vital energy. And here's the key. It can be emitted or directed by someone who's had very specific training, usually involving deep meditation and breathing techniques. The concept's ancient, but the goal here was to see if you could actually measure its effects in a modern lab. So to do that, his team set up a pretty classic controlled experiment. They took a group of lab rats and infected all of them with a really dangerous, often deadly bacteria called Staphylococcus aureus. Then they split the rats into two groups. And the results after just 13 days? I mean, they couldn't have been more black and white. The group that got no treatment, 100% of them died from sepsis, every single one. But the group that received the daily Qi treatment, they had a 100% survival rate. Not a single one of them died. So the huge takeaway here was that this treatment seemed to have a powerful antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effect. It was like it kicked the rats' immune systems into high gear, letting them fight off an infection that should have been lethal. This wasn't a placebo effect, it was a real, measurable, biological outcome. Okay, so that 2008 study was a huge deal. It suggested that some kind of external vital energy could directly impact biology. Now, fast forward over a decade, and researchers are kind of flipping the script. They're looking inward at the energy inside the human brain and figuring out how to measure and even control it. And it all comes back to this fundamental idea, which one of Professor Lee's key collaborators, Dr. John Seil, puts really simply. We all know we get energy from food and water, right? But the energy we get from breathing is just as vital. And that's not just some philosophical idea anymore. Because get this, now they can actually see it. There's this KFDA-approved medical device called NeuroHarmony, and it can measure your brainwaves and create this incredibly detailed map of your brain's energy. It can see how balanced it is, how efficient it is, and pinpoint where things might be going wrong. Just look at this. This is a real patient's brain map. On the left, in the before image, all that red, that's a brain under stress. It's overactive, out of balance. But then look at the after shot on the right. This is after just 4 months of a program that uses neurofeedback and breathwork. It's a night and day difference. The activity is calmer, more organized, more balanced. You're literally looking at a picture of healing. And these aren't just pretty colors on a screen. These changes have a massive impact on people's real lives. Experts who've analyzed these scans are seeing huge improvements all over the place.
People are sleeping better, their memory and attention gets sharper, they feel less stressed, and emotionally, they're just more stable.
But, data and charts can only tell you so much. The real impact is measured in people's lives. And let me tell you about one case, a patient who is dealing with severe dementia, Parkinson's, and even brain damage.
According to her caregiver, this woman was largely unresponsive. She didn't recognize her own family members. But after going through this neurofeedback training, the change was so dramatic that her family was just in shock. They were literally asking, "What did you do to my sister?" Before, her own brother would visit and she wouldn't even know who he was. Now, she greets him by name. Just think about that.
So let's just connect the dots here. We have this incredible story from Nepal, which is backed up by hard lab science, which has now evolved into a technology that is producing absolutely life-changing results. And all of these threads are now being woven together into a huge national vision.
This whole thing has been a long time in the making. It really started with that groundbreaking paper back in 2008. Then, in 2016, a whole graduate school was created just for this field. Next year, Professor Lee is going to be a keynote speaker at a major international conference, presenting this research. And it's all leading up to 2026, when a new government act to promote this healing tourism industry is set to kick in.
The strategy here isn't just about one or two things. It's about building an entire ecosystem. They're developing these wellness tourism packages based on brain energy recovery. They're working with top experts like Dr. John, and they are dead set on positioning South Korea to lead this entire new industry. When you boil it all down, the ultimate goal is to fuse thousands of years of wisdom about breathing and energy with the absolute cutting edge of 21st century neuroscience. And the vision is to create a new kind of tourism, where people don't just come to see a country, they come to actively heal themselves, to rebalance their minds and their bodies.
So, South Korea has already sent these massive cultural waves across the planet with K-pop and K-drama, and the world absolutely loves it. But when you look at the science, the technology, and the incredible human stories we've seen today, you just have to ask the question, is K-healing next?